Congressman Norman, thank you for doing this. I appreciate you being in Greenville. It's good to see you. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Glad to be with you.
I want to talk to you about this run for Senate because this has really happened very fast, and there's a lot of key players in this now. Why do you want South Carolinians to send you to D.C. for a different job this time?
Well, first of all, it's unfortunate with Lindsey. I got a call at 2:59 that morning, and he died. I thought it was a hoax, but unfortunately he did. That being said, it's a fast, quick trip to replace him. I'm the best one, and the reason I'm running, this country's at a tipping point. The Senate has been the graveyard for good legislation. The bills that we passed from the House over, they just die. And the fact that we cannot get a Save America Act, which is to verify that you're an American citizen before you vote in elections, and you verify that. We cannot get that passed. I'm for blowing up the filibuster, for doing whatever it takes. The umbrella for all of this is the America First agenda, which is secure our border, make sure our peace through strength. And I'm the only one in this race that's got a conservative background. I don't just talk the talk, I walk the walk. And people ought to know where we are on the issues, and they know where I am on every single issue. And that's why I've been endorsed by Rick Scott, Mike Lee, Jim DeMint, Mark Meadows, Turning Point USA, and many more. Because this is an important election. It's for a 6-year term, and I'm anxious to get the Senate working again.
I know when you were thinking about this, you reached out to the president, you asked for his support. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, he endorsed Darlene Graham instead. Why do you think he chose to go with her?
I think there was, some sentimental value. I mean, the fact that she's Lindsey's sister, he thought a lot of Lindsey. I went to both funerals for Lindsey. It was unanimous on both funerals. He was a good guy. People liked him. And that would be part of his legacy, as well as what he did for judges.
All right. And so when you decided to run, you had just come off of the governor's race, and so now you're seeking this. You talk a lot about term limits. Some of the criticism you get in my comments is that you're not the youngest person always in the room. What would you say to people who are a little hesitant because of your age, perhaps?
Well, I would have them to ask Donald Trump if he's too old. I would have them ask if they could get a hold of Ronald Reagan, is he too old? Conservative votes don't have an age limit. I'm younger than either Trump or Reagan was during their term. It's laughable they're even bringing this up. Term limits, I agree with. I've term limited myself every time. When I don't run for 2 offices. When I ran against John Spratt, I gave up my House seat. When I ran against for Congress in 2017, I gave up my House seat. And now I had term limited myself in Congress. 8 years is enough. And I was willing to do that. But those who are guilty of, I would say, milking the system, who stay there forever, they're the ones that, and I agree with term limits altogether, but the ones who live off government and get richer, that's not right, and I'm not one of those.
Well, and I think you raise a good point about, limiting yourself and stepping away, not running for 2 offices at one time, which some other people are doing in this race and are facing a lot of backlash for it. I want to talk to you next about some of your priorities because, in the Senate, you said everything goes to die there, and so much of that is true because the House puts out good legislation in many cases and the Senate kills it. So what do you want to do differently? What can you do differently if you're there and not some of these people who've been there for 100 years?
Well, the linchpin for our democracy is having open and fair elections. The Save America Act is the #1 act that to have to battle to get something that's per the Constitution, particularly we've had 20 million or more come across the border illegally that are now voting in our elections. To require you to be a U.S. citizen, that's not too much. That's top priority. I will nuke the filibuster to get it because you can't get 60 votes with the Senate as it's made up. 50% plus 1 we can get. But I know of no more important issue than that. Now, and overall is the America First agenda, which is all the basic things that made this country great, including peace through strength and getting our economy back on track. This country's going broke, and if we don't address it now, I don't know when the time is. And I'm willing to back that up with votes, and I'm willing to spend the next 6 years doing that and represent South Carolina.
Conservative groups like CPAC, Heritage Foundation, they give you pretty high marks. How do their current ratings sort of lay out what kind of a senator you would be?
They tell the tale. I mean, the reason I get a Heritage, Club for Growth, CPAC, the Freedom Index, the reason I get 90 in the top 5–10% is because my votes back up my rhetoric. And you can't say that. I'm not one of these who campaigns on conservatism and then goes up there and breaks the bank and spends money that we don't have. That's the problem we're in now. The cancer in America is overspending. And name me one company, one business, one country that can last if you're in debt up to your eyeballs. In America, our debt interest exceeds the national defense. Well, it's over $1 trillion. It's unsustainable.
Absolutely it is. You have talked a lot about your plan to continue being conservative and working on all those America First agendas. You say you want to nuke the filibuster. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, you know, I was coming out of the funeral for Senator Graham, and I asked one of the senators, I said, looks like y'all in session. He says, we are. I said, what are you doing? Nothing. His response was nothing. And why not try a walking filibuster? Make them stand up there and defend it. Make them take the vote if that doesn't work, and I think it would, to do away with it altogether. It takes 50% plus one with the vice president, it'll pass. Now, you're not going to get 60 votes, but the thing about it, Jackson, if the Democrats ever take control of the Senate, they're going to nuke it anyway and change the way we do our judges, make Washington a state. They will, you know, like the socialists are doing in New York, do away with our police force. They'll do all the things that socialist countries do. That's who we're fighting. It's not the Republicans that I'm running against. It's socialism, communism at its height, and it directly affects young people like you and others.
Absolutely, who feel like they're never going to have Social Security and all those wonderful things. And I know a lot of people are worried about that. Quickly, I want your reaction to Dr. Fauci's testimony. We saw him just recently. He didn't have much to say, but he had one thing to say 111 times. What do you make of his testimony?
You know, when I watched that, him pleading the Fifth Amendment, when Senator Marino and others grilled him, he killed 1 million people. He was on the take. I was the only congressman that stood with the frontline doctors. I was the only one on that hot day. And when I was the only one that, well, one of the few that got fined for not wearing a mask. It's abominable what he did. He will pay a price, maybe not here, but he'll pay a price at some point for doing what he's done. Everything he did was a lie. It was a fake. And so how he can't even, I think it was poignant when they asked him, can you at least stand up and apologize? And he took the Fifth. That tells you all.
And he couldn't even identify the color of the carpet in front of him or the tie that he was wearing. I mean, it was just really laughable, a lot of what he was saying up there. I spoke to a lot of people who wanted your take, and I asked people what they wanted me to ask you. And many people wanted to talk about Silfab Solar and Fort Mill. They are really unhappy with it, but they know you're pro-America, you know, pro-manufacturing, all those things. What do you say to those people who are upset by the chemical issues and things that have gone on with that?
Yeah, Silfab was a company that took over a vacant building. They had the support of Henry McMaster. They had the support, they received commerce money, incentives. A school was being built, already underway. I think it was was finished. They were mad that I didn't take a stance against the company. I'm not on the county council. I'm not on the planning commission. I don't have any, I can't support. And I get asked a lot, can you support this building that's going up? Can you support different companies coming in? I can't show favoritism at all. And they criticized me for being on the solar caucus in Congress. yes, there are 100 caucuses, and getting it from the sun, our electricity through panels is cheaper than buying it through Duke Power. But they would accuse me of a lot of things. I had I'm in the real estate business. They accused me of making money on it. I had nothing to do with Silfab. I had a town hall meeting, answered all questions, had the different parties there. But it's simply, the court system, which the court recently ruled in their favor as far as the zoning not matching the use,
right,
which is fine. That's the proper course to take.
And another thing people wanted to talk about was MMTLP. They feel like that you were, this is the Meta Materials and Torchlight Energy. They felt like you came out aggressively for them. You wanted to fight hard, and they felt abandoned. And people cite FOIA requests where the issue was just kind of left behind. What would you say to the people who are disappointed in your stance or action or whatever you make of what they're saying to criticize you on that deal?
They can criticize me, but I did everything I could. They bought over-the-counter stocks. The stocks, different companies are in lawsuits. You couldn't get any information. I hate they made an investment and lost it. And I met countless times. I put our staff on it, but I can't make a company that has defrauded, and I think they did defraud the customers who bought the stock. But I can't undo that. When you buy stock over the counter, or really when you invest in stock, you take a risk. And it's simply unfounded. If you ask anybody, I did everything I know to do. And I hate it happen, but I can't put toothpaste back in the tube and go back and have them not invest in it. They invested in it, and a lot of military and just regular citizens, and I hate it for them, but I can't control that. And it's like the Silfab, I'm not on the approving bodies that approve their use. I can't go back to the companies that defrauded them. And I think they got a case for that.
All right, and we'll see how that plays out in the court system or wherever. A couple more before I let you go. You have a number of opponents. We've talked about that already. One in particular is close with you in the polls, and that's Darlene, who has the president's endorsement. She's done no interviews. I think one with Sean Hannity. Beyond that, nothing else. I think people sympathize with her because they understand that it's a tragedy, and she was thrust into the Senate, but she's not taking questions. And so I think that's really damaging for her. I'm curious if you agree, and your reaction to the polls that have come out recently, including one yesterday that has you ahead by a couple of points. Mm-hmm. Still a lot of people undecided, but you're leading in a lot of these polls. Yeah,
25% undecided. Look, Jackson, if you run for office, it's your duty, regardless of who you are, to take any and all questions. I didn't know what questions you were going to ask. That's how it ought to be.
Yeah.
I did it as governor. When I was running for governor, I attended every forum. And I didn't care if it's 5 people there or 500. I owe it to you to answer questions as best that I can and take on all issues, because I'm going to have to deal with that in the Senate. And everybody needs to do this. Now, if you're unwilling to answer questions, what are you going to do when you get there and have to vote on things? The people who support me or are against me need to know where I stand. I'm the only one that's got a record. I'm the only one that can defend anything I've done because I believe in conservatism and I believe in being up front with people. My record shows that. So she can chart her own course. She did choose to get in this race. She could have been a placeholder. But as I've told, when I don't know her, I met her. She's a nice person, and I wish her the best. Competition is good. I don't care if we have 50 in there. Let's debate. Let's go have interviews like this, and it's pretty basic to me.
I agree, and I think your ad said it best. You don't need to guess people's positions, especially in the Senate, much less anything else. And so I think that's a good point that you raised. Last question before I let you go.
Can I ask
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
You really need to have, and I've thought about this a lot. I was in the business arena well before I got into politics. I was in my 50s, and some people say that's old. That's the prime age to go in when you raise your family. You need to have made money and lost money. I've done both. And I value the taxpayers' money, and I value the decisions that give them money to spend. And I feel for the young people because, like you, This country we're on a time bomb if we don't do something with our debt and if we don't do something with securing our elections. We just are.
I think a lot of people will agree with that. Before I let you go, you grew up in Rock Hill, as I understand it. Talk to me about growing up there, how that influences you. I know people in the upstate probably are very similar to those in Rock Hill and all parts of the state, but it's different than Charleston or Columbia or wherever else. So talk to me about your upbringing, how that shapes you, and your final and closing message to the voters.
Yeah, I grew up in a great family, Christian family, made us work. I was born in basically a 4-room house. We moved up, had a father who made us work, a mother who worked, did well in the real estate business. It shapes how you view things if you've had to work. I look on my message is, you ought to know where I stand. Everybody should know what my background, which it's an open book. And I'm here to do what I can to protect America, faith, family, and freedom. That's it. And I've got the background for that raised me like that, and I'll take those same values to Washington, and it'll be on steroids because I'll be a vocal opponent for those who are tearing this country down. I will be a vocal voice for making sure socialism is not taking over this country. And it's pretty simple. That faith, family, and freedom, and protecting this country is what I'm going to do. And
in those order, faith, family, and freedom. I think that's what a lot of people want to hear. Thank you, Congressman Norman. I really appreciate you doing this. Thanks so much. This interview is sponsored by Certified Mechanical Solutions, a professionally licensed and insured residential, commercial, and industrial HVAC service provider in upstate South Carolina. Call today at 864-770-5665. That's 864-770-5665.